Hello and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. What I find quite interesting is that the month started really well. Remember what we talked about, it was in one of the recent videos and I highlighted it also in the Telegram and Discord groups that historically February, March, April are really good months. Yeah, and you can see that when you look at seasonalities and how the market historically has behaved in the February. I think out of 10 years, I would need to double check that now, but I showed you the data before. I think out of 10 years, there were only 2 Februaries which were actually negative. So in the sense of having a positive February, the market starts really well, but of course it's a bit too early for that, and we can only really look at historic price data to get an understanding of that. But that is what the data shows, right? There are seasonalities, and historically, typically February, March, April are really good months for crypto. Now let's see if this year is going to be that good as well. But before we dive deeper into the analysis, first a few words about the sponsor of today's Bitcoin video, Chartprime. Chartprime is a service that provides specific TradingView indicators. There are 5 specific and unique indicators that you can only get through Chartprime if you sign up to one of their plans. These are based on quite complex algorithms and formulas and can be helpful in identifying trade setups, which means they can provide additional signals that could support your trading. Indicators can, for example, also be useful to support Elliott Wave counts to give more confidence. Of course, you don't need to apply Elliott Wave to use Chartprime, and the combination of their indicators alone can provide trade setups and signals as well. They currently offer a 30% limited time discount, so if you are interested in this, check it out. Of course, bear in mind that no indicator works 100% of the time. Here's an example of the Bitcoin chart with one of the range indicators. This indicator combines various indicators in itself, so you can adjust it to your needs, but it basically shows your range resistances, different support resistance levels based on different time frames, and it categorizes them based on their relevance. And this indicator provides you with dynamic support and resistance bands to which the price is reacting. And if you're interested in checking it out, make sure that you use the link in the video description and on their website. You can also read through testimonials and you can join their Discord community, which you can join in case you have any questions about how to use those indicators. What is interesting still is that obviously yesterday after Jerome's or during Jerome's speech, the market did move up, and so far it, however, has not further materialized or followed through on that. I already mentioned to you in the previous video that the break above the recent high makes it now more likely that we could be working here on a 5-wave move to the upside within this 5th wave, and that the 4th wave in green there, that substantial 4th wave could already be in. This is not finally confirmed yet. I think we can assume that at the moment, but assumptions are always dangerous. And I also warned in the previous video that Bitcoin is still in this trend channel, yeah, and that we have an ascending trend line here. So honestly, don't make assumptions too early here, or let's say, stay flexible. I think that's sort of the best word for it, because the reason for it is that so far we only have 3 waves up. I always tell you what are the levels for confirmation for Elliott Wave, or as per Elliott Wave, that we are turning around in the trend from this temporary downtrend into an uptrend. It is that we need 5 waves up and 3 waves down. They are 2 of the 3 levels of confirmation. Now again, we haven't even got 5 waves. So what we would need to confirm that Bitcoin is now pushing higher, possibly into the 25k plus region, to finish off this higher degree wave 3 or put a more substantial top in place, we need 5 waves up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we need 3 waves down, A, B, C. And then ideally you also need a break above that high again. Now again, this is of course then a bit too late to trade it, right? But for example, next high probability setup that I would see is if we get 5 waves up and 3 waves down to scale in here. Yeah. At the moment, it's not doing much. I mean, I gave you 2 support areas. They are not necessarily high probability setups, even though the first one already worked out. So in the previous video, we talked about that. that 1, 2, 3. Yeah, if Bitcoin created 3 waves, it would be expected in a 4th wave to get into this region and to exit out of it. So it was a possible trade setup, not necessarily a high probability one, but anybody who took the trade, you can now move up your stop loss, pull it into break even or what, because the risk is still that this is a wave 2. We don't know that yet. And that what we're doing here is just an A wave down, now a B wave up, and we could move down in C. So from that point of view, you could either move up your stop loss or just wait and maybe let the market run a little bit more and then take a bit of profits as we head into B wave resistance, which would be around, well, actually it's starting already at the 50% fib, so which is here at 23.9k. I think, if we talk about it that way, as soon as Bitcoin now gets above 24.1k here on the micro level, that's the 78.6 retracement, it would again get a little bit more likely that we are already in the 5th wave, in this yellow 5th wave. So, to really get a really good indication that Bitcoin has already the 4th wave in, it needs those 5 waves. That's just, what we always need, really. Until then, we see a green candle, we can, sort of assume it certainly invalidated that short trade setup from yesterday, but it so far has failed to go through. It now tries to push above it here. It tried it earlier, failed so far, did run into support. By the way, the support area is defined based on the length of that possible 3rd wave down to the 50% retracement. Mentioned to you in the previous video that the 23.5k level needs to hold to still get a high chance for a 5th wave. So I have no idea at this stage if this is going to follow through, because we are still constrained by the channel. We are below this ascending trend line, and without breaking out, we have no confirmation. Therefore, it's all about, trading those pivot points. And here again, you had another chance to get in if you wanted to, but this is of course something like an intraday trade or so. This is not one of those larger support areas that we have here. And I always encourage people, when the price starts to move into your direction, then just move up the stop loss. Yeah, it increases the risk that you eventually will get stopped out, but at least you will get stopped out in profit or at break even. And but it's eventually setting a stop loss is an absolutely individual decision. There is not really a right or wrong. There are many ways of doing it, including using a trailing stop. So I can't really give advice on that anyway, because in the end, everybody's got an individual risk appetite. There are people who like to leave their trades a lot of space. When you leave your trade a lot of space, then you might need to scale down on your position size. So really, without knowing someone's position size anyway, and knowing what kind of what the size of that position in terms of the overall portfolio is, you can't really calculate your risk adequately. So that's why this is always a very individual decision. But yeah, that's where we are. This would have worked out already. If it's going to follow through, that's a different story. That story is still being written. If it does, then the target for this 5th wave would be calculated by taking the length of the 3rd. We go to the low of the 4th, and we would be looking here at a first target of 24,445 roughly. Yeah. I will need to adjust these targets now as well. Yeah, we looked at that in the previous video, but we didn't have a confirmed wave 4 low anyway. But we also don't have enough clarity yet what's going to happen here. But yeah, first target would be 24,000 for, let's say, 450 for that 5th wave. So that means a slight push above the ascending channel here might already put that 5th wave into completion. And that again could be a first wave of a larger 5th wave. And then a possible wave 2 support could be used to scale in. As long as we only have the 3 waves, it is still very, very possible that the wave 4 isn't complete. Yeah, this is clear because we only have 3 waves up. Mentioned that in the previous video as well. It could just be some kind of an extended B wave here. This is still possible. We don't know that yet. Therefore, we've got here the 78.6 fib. If we break below 23k, I would say it again gets more likely that we will break down. But as you can see, we are in the channel. So eventually, I think it would be great to get a clarity by breaking out of the channel, either to the upside, that we have a wave 5, or to the downside, that we are still in the 4th wave, and that we have here something like a more complex A, B, C structure. So if the wave 4 was already in, then it was an extremely shallow wave 4, extremely shallow. But yeah, we moved up, but again, we are still constrained by the channel. So not too much has happened actually. The only thing that happened is what it invalidated one of the short trade setups I shared with you yesterday. So it's still time to be flexible here, because this is still makes an impression of a corrective mess, the way it develops at the moment. But if Bitcoin can now follow through and put the 5 waves in, we can raise probabilities for a further follow through to the upside. I also need to talk about, if we zoom out, we're now heading into resistance. We are heading into resistance very clearly. We're getting into this region where we got rejected very strongly already here back in August. So the first time actually end of July, that was at around 24,200. So we got rejected here from this region before. It could very well be that Bitcoin tries to push through here and will get rejected again. It is massive resistance. Even in the very bullish scenario here that we have on the chart, where we can still push much higher, it is unlikely that all of these resistance levels will get pushed and broken straight away. The resistance goes all the way up to around 28k. And that is the 1.618 extension here of the C wave to the upside. It goes all the way up to around about 28k. Going above that would basically mean breaking resistance, but it is a resistance zone, so be aware of that. I would expect pullbacks from this zone. There are various counts that are possible. One count, for example, would be that all of this here is, as I said, a 1, 2. Here the 3, we might do that 3, and we come down in a 4th, but we don't have the wave 3 complete, so I can't really give you really an accurate target for the 4th wave, and we would then move up in a 5th. So this would still mean, let's say, quite a substantial pullback in that yellow wave 4, but it would also mean that we can easily go higher afterwards. It is a substantial pullback because the rally in the 3rd wave is quite strong. So the 4th wave will still be let's call it a significant pullback, but still measured in terms of the overall move, still quite shallow. Because it could also be that we are moving up in some kind of a leading diagonal. If we do that, we can get a deeper pullback after 3 waves, because it would then be a large A wave. We could come down in a B wave and move up in C. So that in that scenario, we would move up in an A wave when these 3 waves are completed, A, B, C. We would come down in a B wave, which is a deeper pullback, and we could then rally in a C wave. That would be a deeper pullback. For example, and there are some other counts possible. I will as soon as we head towards the yellow wave 3 completion, I will look into them in more detail and give you the different scenarios. But from this region, pullbacks are anticipated. So just be aware of it. Don't be surprised if we get pullbacks. But for now, Bitcoin still needs to break through micro resistance, which is here obviously the high from yesterday, which was sparked by Jerome's speech. So we had a bit of volatility. That volatility was not unexpected. Talk to you that it could mean that we complete scenarios within a few minutes, that we move from one scenario into another, or that waves get to their extremes. And looking at what we had before, when we had similar events, it was still quite moderate actually. So so what am I looking at really in the very short term? In the very short term, I'm looking at, is this wave 4 support holding? If it does, which is at 23.5k, we can get this 5th wave. To do so, Bitcoin needs to break above 24.3k, above the range here, and then we at least have 5 waves. And the next high probability setup would then be after the 5 waves, this would be possibly a wave 1 of 5, and we could trade into the wave 2 of 5, or even short that move down. But that would then be again against a higher level trend. If we break below 23k and then also follow through to break below the channel, then again we've got the scenario that the wave 4 is still in the making, and I will update accordingly. Yeah, so again, different possibilities here. Things are fairly uncertain in this particular range. I still keep the option open that wave 4 could still be ongoing off some, in some way, because it was an extremely shallow wave 4. Yeah, and I don't want to confirm to you that we're already moving higher. We can currently carefully assume that because the short scenario was invalidated, but it's not entirely clear. And therefore, I can only tell you, trade those pivot points if you like to, the fact that we didn't get into this doesn't mean you now need to start to FOMO in. There's still a possibility that this comes back into this support area. And overall, as you know, as long as we're holding the 20k level, the trend is still up anyway, and I expect that fifth wave to happen. So they are the things that we're observing now. In the channel, a breakout of the channel would be a very strong signal, and I will keep you updated. Okay, and that's my update about Bitcoin. I hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.